Good
afternoon.
4 o'clock having arrived, we're going to call the meeting of the State Allocation Board to order, please. Secretary, will you call the roll? Oh, we only have 5 members. I would love to start as a subcommittee. Thank you. Okay, what's the first thing we can do as a subcommittee today? Executive Officers Report? Great, let's do that.
So I'd like to highlight today, we have a few items to report out, very few. Want to give the board an opportunity to, we have a current filing round for certifications currently that was opened up on May 9th. It closes June 7th, so those projects that submit a certification during this time period from July 1st through December 31st, those certifications will be valid, and you have to have an unfunded approval as a criteria for applying for the certification. So we just want to highlight that, and we also want to give the board an update on the priority funding apportionments. The board took action on March 21st to allocate over $191 million in project approvals, and we're making some progress there. And so we have about $121 million in approvals that we have allocated so far. So there's a deadline of June 19th, and we want to remind districts out there to provide the right certifications and documentation in order to access the cash. And then the last thing we wanted to share is
Lisa,
we have.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you for just a
Yes.
minute? Because we do have a quorum. Let's just establish a quorum, and then we can continue.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Senator Allen, Senator Nguyen, Senator Pan, Assemblymember Nazarian, Assemblymember Chavez.
Here.
Assemblymember O'Donnell.
Here.
Juan Mireles.
Here.
Cesar Diaz.
Here.
Jeffrey McGuire.
Here.
Jacqueline Wong Hernandez.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No,
Continue,
no,
Lisa.
absolutely. The last item to report is a joint agency workshop. So we have 3 workshops coming up. We have one on May 30th in Whittier, California, and that will be focused on small school district outreach. We have 2 other workshops, May 30th and May 31st in Van Nuys and Riverside, respectively, and those will be focused on career tech education. And with that, open it up to the board.
Great. Questions or comments from board members on the executive officers? Yeah.
I'd like to have us agendize at a future meeting a discussion about what the CCI adjustments are, and what the CCI adjustments are appropriate at the time of the reapportionment. Last September, I believe it was, I asked a question regarding the grant level during approval for apportionment of projects on the unfunded list. And I appreciated the response from staff, but there was still no background information on the agenda. So I just want to make sure that, 1, we comply with the law, and 2, the board members had sufficient and accurate information regarding that manner. So specifically what I'm asking is that staff provide the following at a future meeting, again, a future meeting, so that it is agendized and a legal discussion. What are the applicable laws? 1. 2, what are past board practices? And 3, are there any legal opinions regarding that? Thank you.
Great. Does anyone else have? Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Support the request, Madam Chair.
Okay. I think that it makes sense. I've been talking to staff and specifically to our legal counsel about this issue over the past couple of weeks, and I think we probably all do need to get grounded and have a discussion together and make sure that we understand all of the questions that Assemblymember O'Donnell laid out. So I'm going to continue that conversation with council about what's the most appropriate way to do that, and we'll get that taken care of at a future board meeting.
Great. So again, at a future board meeting. Thank you. So it will be agendized at a future board meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Any public comment on the executive officer's report? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go back on the agenda to the minutes. Great. Okay. Sorry. So hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to review the minutes. Any questions or comments from board members?
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comment on the minutes? Seeing none?
Assemblymember Chavez.
Here.
Yes.
Okay. Assemblymember O'Donnell.
I'll abstain, I was not present.
Okay. Juan Morales.
Aye.
Cesar Diaz.
Aye.
Jeffrey McGuire.
Aye.
Jocelyn Wong Hernandez.
Aye. And we'll leave the roll open.
Yes,
For
thank
members to add on. Okay, so
Consent.
moving on. Mhm.
That's ready for your approval.
So any questions or comments on the consent agenda? From board? Any public comment on the consent agenda? Okay, then, motion to approve and a second. And then, can I just say without objection, then? That one, or take a roll?
I think we should take a roll.
All right, let's take the roll.
Okay. Assemblymember Chavez.
Aye.
Assemblymember O'Donnell.
Aye.
Juan Morales.
Aye.
Cesar Diaz.
Aye.
Jeffrey McGuire.
Aye.
Jocelyn Wong Hernandez.
Aye.
That one passes. Do you
Great,
want to
we'll
leave it
hold
open?
Yeah, we'll leave it open for members. Okay, so next item.
Yeah, the financial reports. Draw your attention to page 99. So we wanted to give the board an update, as I shared with you in executive officer statement. We had been aggressively processing fund releases, but just in the few weeks of April, we had processed $68.3 million, and that's on page 99. And if we move forward to page 101, just want to highlight to the board, in the consent agenda, there was $89.4 million in consent items that was for your approval, and so that represents 39 projects. So wanted to highlight that as far as what's in the financials. And we also wanted to share that there was also a few disbursements this month related to the emergency repair program. So we have $1.1 million and 11 additional projects we're funding under the emergency repair program. And we also had a recovery of nearly $1 million in savings. That represents 7 projects. So additional funds have been dispersed in the emergency repair program. And with that, I'll open up to any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Any public comment on this item? Okay. So the next item we have are appeals. Welcome.
Nope, thank you. Michael Watanabe, I'm Chief of Program Services for the OPSC. I'm here to present the appeal for the MUROC Unified School District. They have 2 appeals as part of this request. The first request is to request an expedited processing of their unfunded approval for their Bailey modernization project, and their approval to allow them to use funding generated on their Bailey Seismic Mitigation Project funding for their TK-12 centralized library project. Little background on this project. This project is one of those Department of Defense-based schools that the board revisited back in 2010. The Department of Defense has a federal program. They went around and evaluated all 160 schools on military installations throughout the United States. What they found is the Branch Elementary campus, which is on Edwards Air Force Base down in Kern County, was the eighth worst school on the list. The Desert Junior Senior High was found to be the 31st school. So the DoD set aside funding for these base school projects, and as part of the federal program, they require a 20% local match. On the bottom of page 120, we map out what the needs of the district are for this particular project. The federal program for this project is worth about $150 million, of which the feds would stick up $120 million towards the project, contingent on the district coming up with $30 million of their share. The district has $18 million available through the reopening of their Bailey modernization project, and through these approvals, as well as 3 items in consent that you've already approved, will provide them bond authority towards their $12 million, their shortfall. So there's 2 topics for the board's consideration. The first is the expedited approval of the Bailey modernization project. The application came in 2017, but as of today, we have about 646 applications that need to be processed ahead of them. So they are asking to be processed ahead of those other projects. It's important to point out that we have sufficient bond authority in the modernization program, that nobody loses bond authority by processing this one out of line. We have processed the app as a result of the appeal, as a need to provide the information. Regulations do specify that we process in date order received. The board prioritizes facility hardship projects first, and then modernization in date order received. Given the unique circumstances of this district, the board does have authority through statute, broad authority through 17075.35 to determine eligibility of school districts. The board can also change the regs for this project. However, given the unique circumstance of just the one project needing the advanced processing, the availability of federal funding, we think it's appropriate in this case. If the board were to change regulations on a non-emergency process, we feel there won't be enough time for those regs to be approved before they have a risk of losing their DoD funding. The second topic for the board's consideration is the use of the funding on this Bailey Library. They qualify for the program to replace this library on the existing campus. But as part of their military installation project, they're required to resolve a number of design and curriculums. And the centralized TK-12 concept they're building on campus helps them meet that design need. Regulations don't specifically require them to replace the building on site, but that's how we specifically always treated the modernization program. It's very site-specific. If we expect in the facility hardship program is resolving a health and safety need to those students, so we expect them to resolve it on that campus. Had they moved the campus, the building somewhere else in the district, we might have an issue with that. So what we have on page 140 is a map to show where those two libraries are, where the existing Bailey Library is and where they planned centralized library is. The intent of the library funding, they will combine with a branch elementary school library that's also being replaced to build a larger building on campus. That library will serve the entire K through 12 campus. Given the proximity of the locations, they have built-in plans so that those kids on the Bailey campus can access it. On the map, there is a dotted line between the two campuses. Had those been the exact same campus, we wouldn't have an issue with it. But because they are named two different campuses and they are two different school sites, we feel it's appropriate if the board administratively approve it versus staff approve it. So we present both options separately for the board on page 124. First is for the accelerated processing the Bailey Mod project, and second is for option one is for the approval of the centralized library concept for the district. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the district is here as well.
So thank you for your work on this. I really appreciate you outlining why this is a unique set of circumstances and on both topics for this district. Are there any questions from board members or comments? Okay, well, if any, I'm comfortable as a board entertaining a motion if the board is interested in thank you, Mr. O'Donnell, in approving this appeal. We have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on this appeal, or is the district here? No. Okay.
District is here if you have questions.
Okay. So the district's here for questions. Otherwise, we can just move forward. All right. Okay.
Senator Allen. Aye. Senator Nguyen. Aye. Assemblymember Nazarian.
Aye.
Assemblymember Chavez.
Aye.
Assemblymember O'Donnell.
Aye.
Juan Morales.
Aye.
Cesar Diaz.
Aye.
Jeffrey McGuire.
Aye.
Jocelyn Wong Hernandez.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, great. We'll leave that roll open for Senator Pan.
Very good.
Thank you. Thanks. We'll move on to our next appeal.
Yes, the next appeal is for two projects in Mountain Valley Unified School District in Trinity County, one at Hayfork Elementary School and one at Hayfork High School. And as a brief refresher, in August 2017, the board did approve financial hardship assistance under other evidence, as well as design funding, so that the district could begin to address health and safety issues at both campuses as a result of the discovery of mold in many of the buildings. And since that time, the district has gone before its local voters in November of 2017, and they did pass a local bond with a 65% approval rating, and the bond funds are intended to be used towards the district's local matching share for the two projects. They have also moved forward with the design funds previously granted and have developed the construction drawings for the mitigation and reconstruction work necessary to fix the mold issue. And the next step is for the district to go out to bid and continue to work on the projects so that the students can return to the impacted facilities. And that brings us to our current appeal request. There are two, both for each campus. The first request from the district is to be allowed to use the replacement funding for which the projects qualify to do rehabilitation work. And they've determined that the replacement allowances provided by the program will not be sufficient to actually replace the buildings because of the extremely high cost of construction due to the district's isolated location. The district has no additional resources outside the state funding and the required local match to make up for any gaps in the actual costs to replace the facilities. And they do believe that the replacement funding amounts will be sufficient to mitigate the issues if they were to do rehabilitation work. If the board approves this piece of the district's request, the buildings will be considered replaced and the age of the buildings will be reset for purposes of modernization eligibility. The second issue is for an immediate apportionment outside the priority funding process. And the district has used the previously approved design funds and all other available local funds to move the projects along to the point that they are at today. They had originally anticipated being able to use the funds from their local bonds to continue the projects and keep them going while they participated in the priority funding process, and they had taken steps to issue the bonds. However, the bond issuance cannot take place at this time due to a lawsuit against the Trinity County Elections Office. And while the district believes the lawsuit has no merit, it will take several months for the issue to be fully resolved, at which point the district will be able to issue the bonds. That time delay, however, is a large problem for the district, as not being able to move forward with construction during the next few months will mean that they will likely have a delay of construction for the entire next school year, as they won't be able to commence until summer of 2019, because they're in an area with severe weather conditions that only allows for a short window in which to do the construction. Staff does support both requests from the district, and I would note that if the board does approve the options on stamp page 154, the funding approval in option 2 would result in an immediate apportionment at today's meeting for the elementary project, with direction to staff to bring the immediate apportionment for the high school project back to a future meeting as part of a consent agenda. The high school apportionment cannot be made today, as the project still needs final approval from the state architect, which is anticipated in the near future. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the district is also available for any questions.
Okay. Any questions from board members?
Move approval. Second.
Motion and a second. Any public comment on this item? Okay, then let's take a vote on approving both options.
Okay. Senator Allen. Senator Nguyen. Assemblymember Nazarian.
Aye.
Assemblymember Chavez.
Aye.
Assemblymember O'Donnell.
Aye.
Juan Morales. Cesar Diaz.
Aye.
Jeffrey McGuire.
Aye.
Jocelyn Wong Hernandez.
Aye.
And Senator Pan, how do you vote on?
Can you remind me what are we voting on right now?
We're voting on Mountain Valley?
Appeal.
Okay, thank you. And that motion does carry.
Great, thank you. Okay, I don't know if did I mention Morongo already? I think I may not have. That Morongo was removed. I'm sorry. So the other appeal that we had agendized originally was Morongo Unified School District, and they have asked to have that request withdrawn. So we will not be hearing that today. And then, any other business?
Yeah. I have one more item. And Morongo, they requested a future meeting.
Okay, so it will be heard at some point in the future.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Tab 7 is, I want to direct your attention to page 166, and we're presenting to the board the Career Tech Education Facility unfunded approvals. And at August of 2017, last year, the board had authorized a filing round for $125 million, and with that came with the some timelines that we had worked with Department of Education, and to that extent, there was $500 million made available in Proposition 51. So as part of your attachment A1, we're presenting 73 projects for $124.5 million, and that is also listed on page 168, 169. So to give you some background, Career Tech Education Program funds are a separate program, and it's not, the district doesn't have to have eligibility in new construction or modernization. It's a standalone grant. So if you're seeking a new construction grant add-on, the maximum grant is $3 million, and for modernization is $1.5 million. It is a 50-50 participation, so there is also a condition that there is no hardship, financial hardship for this program. So if this district doesn't have a match, they have the ability to seek a loan. And in those cases, we'll do a quick review and provide them a status report whether or not they're eligible for the loan component. So in order to submit a funding application with our office, you had to have a minimum score of 105. And that score was determined by the Department of Education. So we received 175 applicants for our projects that estimated about $408 million. So again, the program was very oversubscribed for this filing round, and so we ranked via the highest score via locale, urban, suburban, and rural. And the highest scores within those categories were actually structure for the funding. And so today, again, we wanted to highlight that there's 73 applications that we're presenting for your approval, but we still have residual funds left, about $467,000 to be exact. And then we will present that funds to the next project in line. And if they do not want to take the funds as a result of that, for instance, if their project is worth $1 million and we're only presenting them $467,000, then they'll be locked into that commitment of $467,000 and will not have the ability to come in for the remaining part of their grant. So we will continue to present the residual funds, and if there's no takers to those residual funds, then we'll roll over those residual funds to the next filing round. So with that, we wanted to share with you that the item is ready for your approval to approve Attachment 1 for 73 projects for over $124.5 million.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions from the board or comments? I just had one quick question. When is the next filing round? Do we know that yet?
There is a currently filing round that's open, and the Department of Education will accept applications up until October 19th.
Okay, thank you. All right, any public comment on this item? Seeing none, we've got a motion and a second.
Okay. Senator Allen? Senator Nguyen?
Aye.
Senator Pan?
Aye.
Assemblymember Nazarian?
Aye.
Assemblymember Chavez?
Aye.
Assemblymember O'Donnell?
Aye.
Juan Morales?
Aye.
Cesar Diaz?
Aye.
Jeffrey McGuire?
Aye.
Joaquin Wong Hernandez?
Aye.
And that motion carries.
Thank you. All right, the reports.
Yeah, we have the workload reports, but I'm not sure if the senator had an opportunity to vote on the other items.
We'll do that
Okay,
at the
yeah,
end.
the workload reports are,
Perfect. So
Right.
just workload reports. Does anybody have any comment or questions on those that were in your packet? Okay. Any public comment on any items under the purview of this board that were not agendized? All right, seeing none, we are not quite adjourned, but the rest of you can go.
Senator Allen and Senator Nguyen and Senator Pan, Assemblymember Nazarian, how do you guys vote? How do you vote on the minutes? Thank you. How do you vote on the consent calendar?
Aye.
Great, thank you. MUROC Joint Unified, the first appeal.
Aye.
Great, thank you. And I think everybody, oh, Mountain Valley, Assemblymember Nazarian?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we're caught up.
Been at it for a while. I think
We
you
didn't
do
meet
too.
because I remember there was some kind of, I think
was out-
temporary or something.
Yeah, I was out last month.
I wasn't here last month.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna do, I think we're gonna do well, the chair will be talking to you about what we want.
Okay. Thank you.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Hey, Tom. Great job.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I didn't screw, once again, I didn't screw it up.
I know it's body parts.